This is the Final Word Daily, the first of a long summer of Final Word Dailies, the preview daily for the Ireland-England Test match. It is, I'm pleased to inform you, brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. More extra,
less ordinary. You're going to hear a lot of that over the next 60-odd days.
Yeah.
It's a preview show, so we don't have a 30-second summary. What we do have is the captain's press conferences from this morning over at ECB Towers. I've just been watching Andy Balbirnie. Why don't we start with Ireland first?
Okay, why not?
You know, a lot of England chat. We've been there, we've done that. We haven't done quite so much.
Shush.
You've got your phone going on. Here's what you found. Here's what your phone's saying. Here's what I found out. That Ireland are likely to play Andy McBride as their sole spinner, as an all-rounder. They'll have Curtis Campher as their second all-rounder. They'll have the experience of Paul Stirling, who knows this ground so well from his years with Middlesex. Harry Tector, who's the coming man. Andy Balbirnie, who's the only Irish player to play in all 6 test matches for them so far. And in all probability, Mark Adair, who you would have heard from on our weekly show yesterday, we dropped in a couple of grabs from him from an interview we did over in the Warner stand behind us. He'll lead the attack from the pavilion end. Craig Young, who's been a bit of a journeyman in his Irish side. He's 33 years of age now. He played in the winning team against England in the last one day they played at Southampton in 2020. He'll likely make his test debut at Lord's, which is a lovely thing. And possibly Fionn Handa. I don't think he'll play, although, and I asked Balbirnie this at the presser, he did get Stokes out in that T20 win at the MCG last year. Like, does that factor in? Should it factor in?
Should it factor in if you dismiss someone in a T20 game? I doubt it, because literally anybody can dismiss anybody in a T20 game if you hit one up in the air.
But you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's Stokes.
Got the wood over him. Got the wood, got the edge. Mental scars, psychological scars, none of that. Okay, what I like, so when you see Ireland coming out to play a test match, you get a little bit nervous about their batting. You remember that they got bowled out for 38 last time they played a test here. But they bat deep. Like, there's enough there. And they've got that new generation who've come through with Lorcan Tucker, with Harry Tector, with Curtis Campher. You know, they've all got some kind of like ability to create a contest. They've got a level of class that we haven't always seen with Irish batting. And you end up with McBride at 8, who's a very capable operator. So that's decent depth for test match batting. And that means that, okay, the surface is pretty green. We've seen Carl McDermott has put together one of his nice Lord's pitches out there, which we've been having a look at over the last couple of days. So there will be some movement around, but you know, often at Lord's it ends up pretty decent for batting through the middle of the test match. They might be able to do something with that.
You think so? Look, you're right. Ireland are deeper. The inclusion of Curtis Campher, who's played Test cricket this year. That's the other bit of context here. Ireland had to wait pretty much 4 years between Test matches, from Lord's in 19, where they had that great day one, bowling out England for 85, and the 3 they played, I think it was 1 in Bangladesh and 2 in Sri Lanka a couple of months ago. So, you know, they're kind of in the groove right now. They're normally not in the groove. They play a test match.
They've never been in the groove.
They had no chance to be in anything remotely like a groove. Now, that was very different conditions. They played on a flat one in Gaul in their most recent test, where both sides made 500 plus. I think Sri Lanka made 700 plus, didn't they? But yeah, Campher gives them depth. He's now got a test 100. You mentioned the keeper, Lorcan Tucker, who we also spoke to yesterday. He made 100 on test debut. And he made 80 in his most recent test match. He'll be at 7. So, you know, there is something more there than there might have been of late. And yeah, they've got Harry Tector, who's made 4 one-day hundreds in like the last 12 months or something like that. He was part of that winning side against England at Southampton in 2020 as well. So it's not as though they should feel overly daunted by playing England. It's just that the gap feels more exacerbated over the longer form of the game, which is typically the way it goes, right? Short form cricket, the variables can bounce around more quickly, and you can snatch a win, or you can get lucky on Duckworth Lewis or something like that. That's less likely to happen across a 4-day test match. But yeah, there's a belief there that might not have been there 10 years ago.
Right. Josh Little not present. We've known that for weeks, that he wouldn't be selected to play in this particular
match.
bloke
here is going to lead the attack instead. It's Mark Adair, we spoke to yesterday. He'll be running in from the pavilion end, little nip backers into the pads of Joe Root, like it was 4 years ago when he knocked him over twice.
And he's been in the nets too. He made some runs in their warm-up game.
He did.
So he's feeling good. He's up and running. Josh Little was bowling in the 3-day IPL final that they played recently.
So Australia didn't play a 3-day game last weekend, but Josh Little not playing a test effectively did.
Yeah, Australia had test matches in India that were shorter than the IPL final that went for 35 overs. So, look, it was always the case that he was going to miss this, because They've got World Cup qualifiers coming up a couple of weeks after that, and he's been bowling in the IPL every day for the last couple of months. You don't want to break an asset who's a tall, quick left armour, who's clearly your best bowling weapon. You don't want to put too much strain on him. And I totally understand why people are annoyed about it. We're Test cricket tragics on this show. And Andy Balbirnie made comments yesterday which are true, but which also rub people up the wrong way, that this Test match is not the most important thing that's happening this summer. That's not because Test cricket isn't important. It's because if Ireland don't qualify for the World Cup, they miss out on a huge amount of funding. If Ireland do qualify for the World Cup, there's so much extra funding attached that it literally changes their operations for the next 4 years up until the next World Cup.
That is the game-changing piece.
It's existentially important in a way. Test cricket is symbolically important for them, but if they win this Test match, it doesn't help what they do next, except in terms of vibes, except in terms of enthusiasm. Those things are important, but also literally just being able to keep the lights on at Cricket Island is important.
So I asked Andy about this at the presser as well, just before. Weeks like this are important to make a statement to the powers that be that all 12 full member nations should be in the World Test Championship, acknowledging the Afghanistan situation is a shambles. But if you just look at it from a pure cricketing perspective, there shouldn't be sort of two tiers of Test cricket within one organising structure.
Yep.
These bespoke Test matches shouldn't be bespoke for Ireland. They should be able to get the same amount of access as any other full member does, with the exception of Zimbabwe, them and the aforementioned Afghanistan. So that's one piece of this. I was really annoyed at the way that people leapt on Balbirnie yesterday for those comments. He was just stating the truth, as you say. If they win here or don't win here, it might make a difference to that sort of meta-narrative around Irish Test cricket, but it won't change anything about their funding, about their resourcing. They make the World Cup, it is game-changing for them in the next 4 years. So it is just a statement of fact that they need to, what he said, they need to beat Scotland in front of 30 people or Oman in front of 50 people, more than they need to beat England in front of 25,000 people here at Lord's. And that sucks, but it's just the truth. And that's not his fault. That's not Cricket Ireland's fault. That is the fault of administrators that didn't see fit to include Ireland in the World Test Championship when they initiated it back in 2019.
Spot on. Okay, so in terms of that attack, but given Little won't be there, Mark Adair will be leading that attack, and they'd be dreaming about trying to replicate what they did a few years ago when they rolled England for 85, but no Tiger Timmy Murtagh this time around.
I think Young's well suited. He moves the ball around. We saw that. He took 3 wickets against, I think he knocked over like Jason Roy, James Vince in that win that I referred to before in 50 over cricket. So knows what he's doing. He'll be bowling up the slope, as it were, from the nursery, and where we're recording this, and Adair, as we mentioned before, will come down the slope. And then I like the idea of Campher playing a big role through the course of the week with bat and ball. I've been all over his story since before he debuted for Ireland a few years ago. So, and he's a big game player. We saw in the World Cup last year, it was his 70 not out that got them through to the second round effectively. So we've been huge Kurt fans here, and that won't change over the next few days.
Curtain calls. England, now we were talking about how it might be a bit funny if they rolled out for this Test match with Broad and Wokes leading the attack, just as they did 4 years ago, taking all of the wickets. But it won't be Broad and Wokes. Chris Wokes out. England leading with the tongue in. Yeah,
as it was put to me by a friend last night, a listener to the show indeed. It's the first PG body part debutant for England for a long time. There have been a lot of X-rated body parts, or not X-rated body parts strictly speaking, but you can sexualise them. I suppose you can. That's so it is with the tongue.
You certainly can. I mean, it's a versatile part of the body.
You know what I'm trying to say.
All seen the beer
this
ad
isn't the gooch. This isn't
Ball, Jake Ball,
and so on. Anyway.
But you know when the tongue crawls out of the guy's mouth and then crawls through the house party and then goes to the bath with a tub full of drinks, full of ice, and like grabs one and drags it back to his mouth again. Imagine that. Now that's a very versatile tongue.
So he's 25 years old, Josh Tongue, played against Australia when I first saw him play actually in 2019 at New Road, picked up wickets there. Perhaps more importantly, got Steve Smith out in a first-class game a couple of weeks ago.
Who hasn't got Steve Smith out in the first-class game in the last few weeks?
Yeah, exactly. So, so he was one of the 3 bowlers that did that. But yes, that put him in a good position. Travelled with the England Lions over the winter, bowled really well in a first-class game. So that's not to be discounted in all of this. He's quicker than the average spare, has that nip-backer thing going on. So they'll go in without a genuine swing bowler, which Wokes Moore is, in these conditions. Although, to be fair, Wokes relies mostly on his nip these days too, I suppose, with as a more experienced campaigner. But still, Tongue's a more hit the deck kind of guy, much like it is with Potts and Broad. So they might be a little bit samey with Leach rounding out the attack. But you can see what they're looking at with Leach. They just want to, not Leach rather, with Tongue. They want to see him in test match conditions, and they want to potentially have him as part of the rotation against Australia with 5 test matches in 6 weeks, because they won't have Archer, they won't have Wood every week, and of course they won't have Ollie Stone. So they need to be a bit more resourceful than what might have been the plan a few months ago. So that's why he gets his chance instead of Wokes. They probably know what Wokes can do, and that might be part of the decision as well. And with the batting, I mean, Bairstow at 7.
It's the power pack model, right? It's like get everything that you've got, throw everything at them. You know, Bairstow at 7, Crawley and Duckett opening, and then everybody just going nuts in between. That's
it. They'll bazball, and that's for sure. It could mean that the Irish bowlers, I was talking to Noel O'Brien before he played for Ireland for a long time these days, a commentator. He's like, you know, the Irish bowlers will probably need to withstand passages of play where England are scoring at 5 and over, like as they did last year. There's no reason why that will be any different here, even if the surface is lively on day one. The challenge will be, from a mindset perspective, how they keep themselves in the game enough to take wickets, bowl wicket-taking deliveries while the onslaught's taking place, because the best way to slow the run rate, take your wickets.
I hope that, say, Ireland bowl them out for 85 again, but it happens in 10 overs. You know, that's going to be the dream.
A one-day test match.
Yeah, that'll be the ideal situation, and then on you go from there.
We should say, Jeff, that as we go, one more thing about the cricket itself. Okay. Ben Stokes might bowl.
Might bowl?
Might bowl. He didn't bowl in the IPL. He sat on the bench a lot.
He bowled a couple of overs in the IPL.
Yeah, but didn't play for the last 7 or 8 games he was there for.
I think he bowled in one match and then it didn't work out so well.
He just wasn't. But my point is, when he wasn't bowling, he wasn't playing. They weren't using him as a batter. I watched him net earlier today. He's hitting the ball exquisitely. He's very lean. He's lost weight. So he looks fit. He's been doing all he needs to do, and he said in the presser that he sort of made a pledge to his teammates that he was going to get fit enough in India to bowl in Test cricket this year. And the hint there was that he would bowl this week. So I think we've been working on the assumption that he wouldn't be good to go on his bad knee, and they might sort of pick and choose when they use him. Yeah, he didn't bowl the house down against Australia in 2019. It's worth remembering, but he took important wickets and bowled long spells. So if he can bowl long spells as captain, well, that gives them that inbuilt strength that provides them the flexibility to always play Leach, even in conditions like this that, you know, England 2 years ago didn't play a spinner for the whole summer against India. So there has been a change in philosophy there a little bit, and they're helped along considerably by Stokes being able to get to the crease.
All right, we're going to get to the Hall of Fame, but you're going to get your notes out.
I am.
Because
we're going to get used to this.
We've got a sponsor for the season, and you know, if you're from Australia, you might know of Westfield as one thing, as a big shopping mall. But if you're in London, it's a different thing. It's a vibe. It's a party.
Well, Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. When I was living in London in 11-12 around the Olympic Games, it's when Westfield Stratford City was opening, and I can tell you, it is an entertainment hub. So if you're not here at Lord's watching, or you're not watching around the country, you can get around to a number of places. The Bat and Ball, the ultimate destination for after-work fun with darts, pool, ping pong, beer pong, karaoke, and live DJs.
This is a revelation to me.
Plus, hit some dingers at Home Run House.
Some dingers.
Hits dingers.
Okay.
Dingers.
I wouldn't have thought of Westfield as a place to go and hang out and have a cool, fun time, but apparently it is.
Westfield Parramatta, not doing this. Westfield London, by contrast, that was Stratford City. Westfield London, other side of town, that is where Sixers is. One of the various Sixers bars.
Cricket-themed
Cricket-themed, so you can get in the nets and kind of show you. I'm not particularly good in the Sixers nets, it must be said. I'm, for whatever reason, 10 metres, it's about 10 metres away. I can't pick up the ball no matter how slow it goes. You're going to be in there. We're going to do some filming at Sixers at Westfield London. So very much looking forward to that. Visit westfield.com/United-Kingdom to check out the best places to eat, shop and play all summer long. Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. There you go. We'll get better at that as we go, but we're great to have them on board.
We're easing our way in. Hall of Fame, my nomination is, you can't see it, but just behind us there are those LED strips, those boards that go all the way around the boundary line, right? You won't be able to see them on the other side either because they're too far away. So consider the ratio, right? They're say this high. They've been putting the players' names on them, and then because you can't put a face on them unless it's very small, you have to zoom into a real little strip. And so they've just been putting giant close-ups of every England player's eyeballs, just the eyeballs, but they're so big that they're really frightening. Like you can see all of the grisly bits around the outside and the imperfections and the bumps and the cysts and they're just gooey, and it just feels like you're about to, I don't know, like you could slip in there, like you'd accidentally get a leg in there and then, oh God, you're in Ben Stokes' eyeball and you kind of pull your leg out.
There's a great line in the finale of Succession. No spoilers here, no spoilers here about eyes, and
Okay.
that's a little Easter egg for you to open at some point.
The eyes have it. Do you have a Hall of Fame? Anything happen to you
What would I
today?
say? A Hall of Fame? I would say this: England rocking up early to train so they could play golf in the afternoon. Bless them. Never change.
Oh, it's the golf era, and it's disgusting. Right, this has been the Final Word Daily, the first for the Northern Summer. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, stick with us. We'll see you very often.
More extra, less ordinary.